All right, again, same clothes, same hair. This is class 4. Today we're going to be putting our Mercuries together, finishing it off, and I'm so excited to see all of your Mercuries and all of your versions of it. Again, this one is just so amazing when it comes to color blocking and whatever you want to do. So yes, we're going to take our lining panels that we have all put together for homework. We're going to put it with our exterior panels, and we're going to get this bag all turned out. I'm excited. Okay, let's get to doing it. Remember, put your name down below so I know that you were here. Okay, so for homework, you guys did your rivets, you did all your markings as per the pattern. This goes together pretty much the same way as the lining, except for we will be putting the bottom on and it will be different seam allowances. So what we want to start with first is we want to take our side panels and we have our line drawn down. And just like we did with the lining, we're going to take some double-sided tape or clips, put it along that line. And then fold that top edge down to that line. So this is one of those bags where it is birthed, but partially drop-in lining as well. So put it down to that line good. Stick it in place. Same with the other side. Oops, my camera's crooked. I apologize. There we go. Don't know if you can hear it. We have a little bit of a windstorm going on. We have a storm rolling in. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our front panel and our two side panels. We're going to lay them out like so. And we are going to bring these right sides together, matching up the bottom. Now this isn't going to go all the way to the top. That is exactly what we want. So match up the bottom and clip in place all the way up, making sure that your pocket is kind of pushed out of the way because you don't want to accidentally sew through the excess we have going on there. Now, right where this pocket meets, it does get a little bit thick there. So when we take this to the machine, you may need your hump jumper. You can see the thickness because I use vinyls and such. Okay, do the same with the opposite side. We'll do them at the same time at the machine to save some time. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to start right where the side is, just maybe 1/8 of an inch down from the folded edge. And we're going to sew all the way down with the seam allowance, starting and stopping at this square or line that you've drawn at the bottom. You do not want to go past that, just like we did with the lining, because we're creating those Y seams. And then backstitch well for both sides. All right, so I'm going to use my seam guide. Again, make sure you check your seam allowance. So this side I'll do first. And again, I'm starting where the side meets, just below, slightly below. Right about there. to make sure I was recording. So this is where it gets a little thick, right where I am now. I have my hump jumper ready to go just in case I need it. I think I'll be okay though. It's right where that pocket meets. Get to that line. And backstitch well. Just check to make sure my stitches aren't stressed out, and they're good. Okay, opposite side. So for the orientation of this one, I'm starting from the bottom, so I'm going to start at the line and then sew to the top of the side panel. Again, thickness there because of that zipper pocket. Make sure nothing is stressed out. My pockets meet up perfect here, which is great. Okay, back to the table. So that is the front. Again, I'm sorry, it got really dark. We have a storm rolling in and my lighting is just not good. It's really dark. Anyways, you see it all lines up nicely here. So that's perfect. Now what we want to do is we want to do the exact same thing. We're going to attach it to our back panel. So again, oops, don't need the bottom yet. We're going to line up the bottom and clip it across. Oops, broke one. And I'm going to clip the opposite side too. So we have it all clipped together and ready to sew over at the machine. So bring this side up. We're creating a tube just like we did with the lining. Okay, and then we're going to go sew those. I'll meet you over at the machine. Oops, my tail got a little bit short there. Where are you? Don't want that to get stuck in my machine. There we go. Stitch well. Again, just up to the side panel, about 1/8 of an inch away from that folded edge. Same with the opposite side. So I got the wrong way. This way. And starting and stopping at that line or box that we drew. Stitch well. All right. Each at the table. Okay, so before we put on the bottom, we're going to do, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. It's all in the same section, but I like to do this first. So about 3 inches or so down from this top side here, I believe. Oh, from the top. So I just kind of eyeball it. I kind of line it up with where my pocket meets here. I'm going to draw a line there. On all sides. Because we're going to trim up our seam allowance. There's a measurement in the pattern as to what I am marking here. I am just eyeballing it, but she does have a measurement as well. Okay. So it's very important that when we trim these seam allowances, you know which side our backpack connectors are, because you do not want to trim where that backpack connector is. So you can trim in between that. So it goes about here up to that line. Just trim up that seam allowance a little bit, get rid of some of that bulk up to that line that we drew from the top. So just a little bit, looks like that. Where's my other back side? Because I'm going to do it because my connectors are there. Do them first so I don't forget. And trim up that seam allowance. She's a thick because I used all vinyl to that mark. And then on the front side, I'm going to go just like where my 1 inch cutout is here, about 1 inch up from the top. I'm going to trim that away up to that mark. Just like that. Same with the opposite side. Where's my mark? Right there. Okay. Okay. And then what we are going to do is we want to open up the seam and hold it in place, especially at the top here. And again, I'm kind of jumping ahead. I like to do this part right now. So I'm going to just take some double-sided tape here. And just along this top part, we're going to do this for all corners. We're going to go ahead and just above my little band here, this is just going to help a little bit. I'm just going to put a little bit of a snip into that seam allowance right there so it kind of moves freely. Not by too much though. So I can fold open that seam allowance like so. And then on this side, we want to do the same thing at the very top here. So I'm just going to go down a little bit and snip into that seam allowance. Just very slightly, like so, so I can hold open this side as well. Just like that. And we want to do that for all the corners. If you want to put a clip there to hold it open, if it's not wanting to stick, go ahead. We're going to go and do that for all of our corners. Just going to go down. Make sure this one I go down enough. And you don't have to put the snips in there. You can just open it up. I just find this easier to do when it can lie flat on my table rather than having my bottom on yet, because once we have that bottom on, it restricts us a little bit. But in the pattern, you do this after you have put that bottom piece on. Open that up and open that up. And just put a clip in it. So I've got a stray piece of thread hanging out there. Let's get rid of you. We'll just tuck you in. There we go. Okay. Same for these other sides. Come on. Fold it open. Oopsies, a little bit higher. And the reason we're doing this is where the sides drop in. One more. And then once we have these secured, we'll move on to putting on our bottom. Come on. There we go. All right. Oops. Got all those done. Now we're going to do our bottom. So flip on down to the other side, grab your bottom piece, and we're going to do the 2 straight sides first, the longer sides, and then the short sides last. So you're going to take this right sides together, put it in through the bottom, match up that center, clip in place. And when you get to where this Y seam is, you're just going to kind of, this is why we don't sew these corners. You're going to kind of push this corner out of the way and take the front panel and line up it up like so. So you're kind of pushing it out of the way and lining it up. Again, see how I'm pushing it out of the way? It kind of creates this kind of T, I guess, or Y. Line those up. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to sew from box all the way over to the other box there, backstitch well. And what you'll want to make sure when you're done that is that all of our stitches are matching up all the way to where we started and stopped on the side. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to do the other long side at the machine, and then we'll come back to the table and I'll show you how to do the side. Okay, box to box. I lost a clip. Again, making sure the side seam is out of the way. We're only sewing through the bottom and the front panel here. So they're staying aligned up from box to box. So the needle should be going down almost right beside the folded seam on the side without catching the side. Back stitch. She's a big bag. Losing my voice. Oh no. All the way to the opposite side. Okay, and at this point, I like to go ahead and check that my stitches are matching up in this perpendicular corner here, and mine are there. And they match up there. Yeah, we're good. Okay, now we're going to do the opposite side. So you're just going to pull your exterior or your bottom out and then clip together with the other long straight side. Get matching up your centers. Probably not going to see this because I'm doing it on my lap. But exactly like we did before, just long side to long side. Clip across. Okay. Again, you can't really see what I'm doing, but it's exactly like what we did at the table. Almost there. Okay. And then once again, box to box. You can just squish it down and out of the way. I'm going to move my iPad out of the way because I'm hitting it with the bag. Corner to corner, making sure you're not catching that side. You have this side piece kind of out of the way. And putting your needle down at that box, and it should be just before that side seam starts. Are we going? Are we lining up here? Oh. Okay. Back stitch. And across. We've done lots of Y seams in classes. That's exactly what we're doing. And stopping at the other mark. Okay, back to the table. Okay, so better visual. This is where I was saying make sure where your side seam comes down, and then this is a seam we did across the bottom. See how they meet up, my stitching. If you need to go back in to make sure they meet up, you definitely can, but mine are good. Now the side ones, easy part. They should just slide in together like so, doing the same thing, pulling apart that corner, but we're working with the side seam and the bottom panel now. See, kind of pull them apart, line them up, clip in place, and then we'll be sewing from box to box with that as well. And that's why we cut the foam out of these corners, just so the corners don't get super bulky, because we are going to be trimming those up here momentarily as well. Okay, and opposite corner, get rid of some of these threads. It should just fit right in there perfect. Oops, I cut that corner. That's okay. I got my corner stuck in my stitching here, so I'm just going to, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. How did I manage that? This is just my little boo-boo. My corner, see it got stuck there? Trim it up to loosen it. There we go. There we go. All fixed. Again, making sure that the front panel or the back panel part is pulled out of the way. And now we're going to go sew mark to mark again. All right. So it's a big bag. Just going to squish her down, make it nice and flat. Make sure your corners are behaving like they should, and sew box to box. I kind of like, I can see where my stitches are from my side. I'm putting my needle down where my stitches ended from my side panel, and I find that really helps me a lot too. Sides are easy because they kind of just want to go where they're supposed to, so that's always a bonus. I can see where my stitching for my side stopped. Make sure this is squished out of the way. We're not catching anything we shouldn't be catching. Back stitch. I can double check on both sides that all my stitches meet at that corner, and they do. Perfection. Same with the opposite side. Squish it. Make sure your corners are behaving how you want them to. Get in there. Sitting at that seam allowance mark. Yeah, I am. Okay, good. So it's a bigger seam allowance that I'm used to working with, so I have to double check that I'm not doing old habits and I'm actually using the correct seam allowance. Okay, I'm going to double check that all my stitches match up in that corner, that side. This side they don't quite, so I'm just going to go in and make it happen. Just slightly off. Come on, thread. A little bit more there. There we go. Do not want holes in those corners. There we go. We're good. Okay, now for a part that always seems scary is we want to trim some of the bulk outside of these corners. Does she? I'm just seeing if she trims any bulk out of the middle part here. Let me double check. Okay. So first, kind of reach in and poke your fingers into those corners just to make sure they're all closed up. Mine are. Now for these side corners here, what you're going to kind of do is fold it flat like this. And we are just going to cut on an angle like so, about 1/4 of an inch away from where our stitching meets at that crossroads right there, and trim off all 4 corners like so. Again, make sure you're not clipping your stitches at all, just the excess on those corners where the 3 corners meet. Come on, there we go. And then we can go ahead and we can trim these bottom seam allowances down a little bit on all 4 sides. I like to keep it at least 1/4 of an inch left, just because in my head, that makes me, I feel like it just gives a little more structure and stability to the bottom. You definitely don't want those seams to pop. So just taking off ever so slight amount. We've already done that top part. What do we want to do now? Now we can go ahead and we can turn this out. So we are now looking at, where are we looking here? Yeah, turn her out. We're on page 38. Again, this may take me a moment just because I'm using such thick vinyls and my arms are not at their best right now. Do you know what? I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to get Riley to turn this out for me just to save my arms. I'll be right back. All right, he got it turned out most of the way for me so I can finish it. So when you get to these corners, kind of poke out the corners and see, make sure it's close up, and look how beautiful those Y seam corners are. I think they're called Y seam. I think so because they kind of form a Y. That's what I call them anyways. Just put out the corner, make sure it's all good and all enclosed, no holes. Same with this side, looks good. That side looks good. So it kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking like. She's looking good. Just like that. Okay, make sure all your edges are still folded under. And now we're going to do some markings on the right side. So this is taking us to, okay, actually we'll prepare our zipper first. So what I like to do is I just take my zipper tape and I make it the length of where the zipper is going to go, which is from here to here. You can also look in the pattern. Oops, let me see if I can make this brighter. No, I can't. From this side, I just go about a little bit longer than that. And then I like to make it almost a double, but you can cut as per the measurements in the pattern. I just eyeball it like so. Set this aside for now, working with the zipper tape. Clean this up. I never succeed in keeping a clean table when I'm showing you guys how to do this. Okay, so my zipper right now is right side up. We're going to put it wrong side up. And on the right hand side, we are going to make a 1-inch mark with a pen that is not going to disappear. And this is going to help us put our zipper pull on straight later on. So just like so. Then you can turn it again right side up. I need to grab some pins. Now with this opposite side, we're going to bring it apart a little bit, fold it down on itself at a right, or this is at an angle, like that. See how it's looping? And then fold it up and on itself like so, creating this curve. Secure with a pin. Do the same with the opposite side, making it curve over to be nice and even with this other one, as even as you can make it. That looks good. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to baste those in place. Okay, baste. Just to hold that curve. For one side, same with the other side. Oh, look it. I didn't hold my tail and my needle came unthreaded again. Man, oh man. Get in there. There we go. Okay. Try that again. Okay, so you can pull those pins out, and then you can trim these excess tails off nice and even with the zipper tape, just like so, and pull that apart. Clear some of this off. Messy, messy, messy. Okay, so back to our exterior piece. So I have the right side up. Now from this side, you are going to see on page, again, I didn't put a zipper end because I'm using a metal zipper end on this. Okay, on page, what page are we on? Page 40, step 12, final assembly. We're looking at step 1 there. You're going to measure in with the front facing up as per the measurement that's shown in step 1 from the left side, and make a mark with an erasable pen. You are also going to flip this over, and on the wrong side, but on the right side, you're going to do the same mark. So they are opposite from each other. You want to make sure that they line up perfectly. So my mark there are nice and even. Perfect. Alrighty, now we get to add that zipper. I'm actually going to use a little double-sided tape here. You can definitely just use clips if you prefer. I'm going to make sure we go. Oh no, do you know what? Whoops. Oh, that's right. We need to do one more mark. On the right-hand side of the with the front of the bag up, there is another mark to draw, also in step 1 on both sides. So right there. And this is where we are going to have our tails veer off. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of double-sided tape. Again, you can use clips. And I'm just going to put it from mark to mark. I'm actually just going to make my tape stop about a 1/4 inch away from that mark on the one side, like so. Same with the opposite side. Again, you can use clips here as well. You don't have to use tape. I just find the tape helps make it so your zipper doesn't go too wavy because it's holding it in place. It's not being stretched. And I love tape, you know me. Okay, so I'm back to my right side here. I'm taking the paper off my tape. Now you want to take your zipper that when it's wrong side up, so we have these right sides together, the curvy part is going towards the left of the front side. So I have these right sides together. I'm going to stick it down at that line and all the way across. And as we come to this right side, we're going to kind of veer the tail down like so. And I'm just going to put a clip there to hold it out of the way. So it just starts veering down right at that mark, out of the way of the stitching, like so. Okay, again, you can use clips there. I'm going to do the same with the opposite side. But this time you will see that the curvy side will be on the right-hand side when it's right sides together. So it should line up with the opposite side good. So all the way to 3/4 inch line, or that line, I shouldn't have given that measurement, and then just make sure that it kind of comes down and out of the way after that mark, just like so. And now we're going to go ahead and we are going to baste both of those sides in place. Okay, so before I start that, I am going to put on my zipper foot just so it works good. Where is my other screwdriver? I guess I'm using this big screwdriver. I always change into my zipper foot when I am sewing zippers. Okay, so I'm just going to, how do I want to do this? I'm just going to sew it from the inside of the bag and just be aware where my zipper is. And I'm going to go ahead and baste just along the straight edges across. Okay, make sure that your tail is out of the way where we have veered it down. And we're only going to sew to that mark we made on the tail side. I gotta watch it because it's right here. And backstitch. Okay. Oops, I'm gonna knock my laptop over. Get to that line. I did. Same with the opposite side. I'm actually going to just transfer that mark to this side so I can see it better. One sec. So I have it marked on the right side, but I don't have it marked on the wrong side, and that's where we want to stop sewing. Okay. Especially when I'm starting from this way. Make sure I got it on this side. Yeah, I did. Okay, good. Again, baste across. Oops, my tape isn't sticking. Get back on there. Oh, everything's falling over here. My bag is too big for my table, and I have my iPad on here, so I might have to move it. Okay. Backstitch well. All right. Meet you back at the table. All right, so that's done. And when you put these tops together nice and even, our zippers should line up on both sides, which they do. Okay, so I'll set that aside for now. Now you're going to take your linings, and what we want to do is we want to prep these sides just like we did with the exteriors, where we are folding them out. Now you can press this, you can use double-sided tape, do whatever works for you. So we're just repeating on all four corners what we did on the opposite side or on the exterior. So you want to fold these seams open. Fold it open just like so. So it creates nice finished corners there for all corners. Come on. Open. It's one side done. Don't know why I'm using my big scissors. It's very important that these seams stay open, trust me. One more side. Open. Final one. And open. So that's what that looks like on all corners. Now what we want to do is take the exterior of our bag and we want to put it into the lining, making sure that your back panel is right sized together with your laptop sleeve and your front panel is right sized together with your zipper pocket and slip pockets. Squish your exterior and slide it in to the lining. Kind of pull it through the full opening if that helps. Squish the exterior so it goes in nicely because our lining is just slightly smaller. Okay. Now, again, double check that your laptop sleeve is right sized together with your exterior and your front lining is right sized together with your exterior. Make sure your zipper tails are kind of pushed down and out. And all we're worrying about are those parts where we sewed the zipper on. So you're going to match the exterior and the lining centers and clip all the way across. Make sure your zipper tail is veering downwards. Get in there. Matching it all up. Perfect. So our folded edges here should match up perfectly. Oops, broke another one. Not worrying about the sides because we are going to close those up with the top stitch, just like a drop-in lining. Match my sides here. I'm going to go ahead and clip the exact same on the opposite side. We'll clip both sides and then we will take these to the machine to sew. Perfect. Other side. Match up that center. Clip across. Uh-oh, where'd that go? I dropped it inside. There it is. and make sure your zipper is behaving and it's veering down. Okay, and then I'll meet you at the machine and we are going to go and sew across here with the seam allowance in step 10 on page 41. All right, so just like we did when we sewed on the zipper, we're sewing all the way across this time, making sure that your tail ends or your zipper tails are down and underneath, of course. You don't want to be catching those zipper tails in the seam. It's a slightly larger seam allowance here, so make sure you check out that step. Have your zipper foot on and sew all the way across. I'm just going to sew from the inside. Just across the straight edge. With a nice and straight seam allowance. Because we don't want a wavy zipper. Make sure everything is where it needs to be, and it is. Backstitch well. Repeat with the other side. Here's my tails. Make sure those folded edges line up. So you want to shift just ever so slightly here. Come on. I don't want you to slip on me. Click that again. It's slipping on me. Okay. Sure my zipper tail's doing what it needs to do. Kind of peek at it through the opening in the side here. Sure my folded edges are nicely lined up. And backstitch. All right. Okay, so my folded edges matched up good. Matched up good. We still have the opening in the sides, but you can now go ahead and turn the bag through the full opening in the bottom. Should be a somewhat easy turn through the full opening. I used EB Fuse Medium on my lining, so it's a little bit stiffer to pull out. Oopsies. Okay, so before we put it in the bag, we're going to go ahead, just kind of make sure that your zipper looks good and nice and straight, which mine is. on both sides. It's the right way, yeah. So I want to deal with my bottom before I stuff it into my lining, just because it is such a big bag. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to pull out my pocket. And I'm going to pull the entire lining of my bag through the pocket. Okay, and I may need help with this again because my hands aren't strong, so I'm going to get Riley to help me with that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so it does look like a blooming mess, but trust me, this is easier. So we're going to work with the long side. We have our sewn on bottom here. It's important we're not twisted. So make sure you're not twisted. We're going to work at the straight edge first, just like we did before, and the straight edge of the other bottom that we did. Match up that center and clip across. Again, we have our Y seams on the corners, so we'll flare those out. Whoops. See, my hands just are not. This is why I needed the month of July off. My hands really, really needed a rest. My carpal tunnel is so bad right now. Now, the only thing that makes pulling this out of the pocket hard is depending what you use for materials for your laptop sleeve. Of course, I used waterproof canvas so to make it a little tough. So just kind of clip that straight edge. Again, it looks like it's a hot mess, but trust the process. It will work. We're only working from side to side, so just the straight edge. All the way to the corner. And then we're going to sew that straight edge from box to box. You'll have to straighten this out as you go, of course, but I'll show you how to do that at the machine. Okay, so with everything else out of the way, we only want to be working with that bottom seam. From box to box, straighten it out as you go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put on my regular foot just so I have a little more control. Don't need the zipper foot anymore. Come on. Again, when I can't feel my wrist, everything is hard. Okay, so we're going in with that larger seam allowance, and you're going to just kind of straighten this up as you sew, making sure you're only sewing through the bottoms. And you want to make sure you're starting at the box where our stitching ended from the sides. Back stitch well. And kind of just smooth it out and go all the way across from clip to clip. See, just kind of smooth it as you go. And it's the lining, so if it's not super, super accurate, it doesn't matter. As long as you stop at those boxes, that's all that's super important here. Make sure you're only sewing through what you need to be sewing through. And back stitch well. I'll meet you back at the table. Let go. Okay, so that is the bottom sewn across. Now we got to do the sides. So just kind of find out where your sides are. They're right there. Match up your centers and clip across. Pull it out a little more. There we go. Always start by the centers. Then you know where you are, because you can't really see them as you're doing this because it's all looks like a hot mess, but it's not. Trust me. Part. There we go. So here's an example. I didn't have, see, it caught part of my side thing there, so I'm going to have to go resew that. But I'll do that all at the machine. Come on. Because I caught it. It snuck in there on me. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now my side will come together better, and I'll just make sure I go back up to that mark, and that's where I will make sure they meet up. So there's no hole. Clip across. Again, you can do this per the pattern and turn through an opening in the bottom, but this just made it a lot easier on my hands. You can do whatever you like. I definitely wouldn't recommend trying to turn it through the pocket. I think that would be just terribly hard. I'm going to try to clip both of these sides at the same time. Again, I used an EB Fuse medium on this, so my lining is a little bit thicker, which is making it a little bit more difficult, but I really wanted the structure of that. So, okay, so I'm trying to find my other side here. There it is. Match up those centers. Oops. Should come out just a little bit more. There we go. This side just a little bit more. What did I do here? It's all good. Okay, so I'm going to finish clipping this, and then I'll meet you over at the machine. All right. Okay, so again, just like we did for the long sides, it's going to be a little bit awkward, but really just go clip to clip, and you've got this. Not sure if you're going to really be able to see what I'm doing, but it's all good. Just make sure your threads are all matching up in those corners, and sew those sides up. Corner to corner. This is the first time I've used EB Fuse Medium to do this. I wouldn't recommend it. It just makes it really stiff to work with. It shouldn't look as hard as this. It is not as hard as I'm making it look, I promise you. Come on, get where you need to be. This side is fighting me the most. Got it. Okay, opposite side. We want to do this. Trying to figure out where is the easiest to start it. And working with a large bag has its challenges. Okay, this will be right here. Right there. I got a good eyeball view. Again, it's not this hard. It's because of the interfacing I chose to do for this one. And it's just making it super thick with all the pockets and everything we have going on there. But I got this. Okay, I don't think you guys can even see what I'm doing here really, so I'll finish this up and go back to the table. Okay, I finally got it. I actually had to take it to my cylinder arm machine. I just couldn't wrangle all of this under my bed and under the flatbed, which was why, so look how messy it looks. But all that matters is that all my stitching is matching up. And I learned the lesson here. If you're doing this, do not use a thicker spoon and flower fabric, which is almost canvas-like, backed with EB Fuse medium, because it just made it really hard. All the other ones I've done was just a regular cotton lining with EB Fuse Lite. I didn't have any issues doing it this way. It is all because of the material. So that's a learning moment for me, and learn from my mistakes. Once you have that done, go ahead and push this into, put the bottom back inside the bag, kind of pop it out, and make sure that it is definitely all closed up. Now you can see here, my corners are by far not perfect here because I struggled with that. Just only the one corner, but it's closed up everywhere. So I am happy with that. Okay, now go ahead and close up your zipper pocket. It's a little easier now. You should have all the raw edges already folded in. Okay, and let's go top stitch that shut. Okay, top stitch, top stitch. That was a lot easier. Again, my struggle with that previous section was because of how thick my materials were and how thick of an interfacing I chose. So I promise you, it's not as hard as I made it look. Okay, back to the table. That's one thing about filming something live like this. You get to see my mistakes. Put your knee back in, push it out nice and good. And then you can go ahead and stuff your lining into your bag. Again, I may need, because you can tell my arms are not working properly, I may need to get Riley to help me with this. We'll see. Come on. And it's really weird because we got the sides open here, so it feels really floppy. Just go with it. Plus, I use the thickest materials ever for all my lining stuff. But we're almost done, you guys. Top stitch, zipper, pulls, zipper end, and handles, and we're done. Okay, I got it in. Get it laying nice and flat in there. After all that, you can't even see that little corner that I made really messy, which is good. That's one thing about linings is they are somewhat forgiving. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to prepare for top stitching. So what we want to do first is see these openings here where all of our folded edges are. We want to match up these seams and we want to make sure that these little seams here are both going towards the center, and these other seams we tape down for the front top part are going towards the opposite side, butterflied from each other. And we want to match up all of those folded edges. They should all line up perfectly and clip them in place. Because we are going to top stitch these sides and everything shut when we go to do the top stitch. But helps start at the sides, make sure everything is going good, everything is lining up, because we're going to want to catch both sides. Same with here. Stretch it out. And clip in place, just like a drop-in lining on these sides and everything. Put that down in a little bit more in there. Okay. Very important they line up good, because we want to be able to make sure we're catching both when we top stitch this. Okay. Use this around. Wasn't wanting to match up. I got to make sure I ease that fabric. This one's fighting me a little. Come on. There we go. Okay, so that's one side clipped. You can see I have all my folded edges matched up here and here. We want to do the same on this opposite side. Match up those seams. All the folded sides are matched up. Very important. Got extra. Oops. This will enclose all of those raw edges too, so. But you definitely do not want these to slide. Come on, get in there. There we go. Okay, and then we also want to be pressing these lining down and the seam up. I like to use my larger clips for this because it is a zipper top type thing. So kind of massage this seam down, make sure my zipper is nice and straight and that my lining is going where it needs to go so it won't hinder the zipper at all, and clip in place. You can also just do this by feel at the machine. I'm suddenly getting a ton of email, holy moly. Now I am going to be top stitching this at my cylinder arm, so you top stitch in your preferred manner. If you're on a flatbed, if you're on a free arm, you can definitely, or a cylinder arm, you can definitely do it the way I'm going to be doing it. Or you can turn the bag inside out and do it, or you can just top stitch from the inside edge of the bag. Just make sure your bobbin thread is looking really good as well. Okay, that's one side. One more to go. Roll that seam. I think my client is going to be very happy with this. It's gorgeous. I wasn't sure about the teal and the purple together. That's one thing with custom orders. Sometimes you learn different color combinations that in your own taste you wouldn't think would look good together, and then you're pleasantly surprised. Oops, I need a couple more clips here. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we are going to top stitch this all the way around. I just have to go and change the thread on my cylinder arm, and I'll meet you over there. Okay, so as we are going around here, you do have to make sure you're being very careful, especially when you get to the sides where we have our drop-in lining. Excuse my fancy pants. And we are going to top stitch all the way around. And I'm going to start on one of the sides. Just to make sure, I'll start in the middle of one of the sides. Again, making sure we're getting both layers. And that they're staying nice and even. I took out too many clips. Let me go back in and try this again. The drop-in lining part, you just want to make sure that those are super nice and lined up. Okay, let's do this. Take it nice and slow. As you know, I don't do my top stitching fast by any means. I want to make sure everything is staying where it needs to stay. And go clip to clip. Now when you get to the sides where we're going to be going up, you want to kind of go past it by 1/8 of an inch onto that main panel. Get in there where I want you to go. Okay, perfect. This is all lined up. Okay, so side panel, go in and in at 1/8 of an inch, needle down and pivot to go up. Again, making sure that those folded in edges are nice and even, so you're catching both. And right there. And then pivot underneath the zipper. You see how it caught it all there? That's good. This side is a little easier to do because that seam is already sewn. Just make sure the lining is staying where it needs to be and your zipper tails aren't getting in the way. Okay, and when you come to the other side where we have our drop-in lining type areas, make sure they're lined up and that you're catching both. Come to the end and pivot. Your tail out of the way. So the sides are the hardest part of this top stitch. What's going on here? Oh, there we go. Definitely easier on a cylinder arm machine. Pivot. Come across. Needle down and pivot. Pivot. Oops, I'm throwing stuff on the floor. Almost there. Right there. The last corner to pivot around. And back stitch well. All right, so my zipper looks straight. I had a little bit of a slip right here where my lining is up a little higher, but it was still all caught and it's in a corner. I'm probably the only one that notices it. But make sure everything was caught all the way around on both the lining, especially, and the exterior, especially in the drop-in lining sections. You want to make sure all layers were caught, and mine were. And now all we have to do is put on our zipper pulls. So that's where we're going to line up these edges. So I'm going to grab my handy dandy fork. What am I going to do here? Oops, let me move my mouse out of the way. My zipper pull, wrong side up. Take my bag, bring my zippers the way they're going to be, flip them over, and you'll see the lines that we drew. And if we sewed it on right and we match up that line, our zipper should go on nice and straight. Not quite. Not quite. There we go. Moment of truth. The zipper up. I have a perfect straight zipper. Look at that. And It matches up on this side. So now all you have to do is sew on a zipper end or put on a metal end like I'm going to do. I'm going to trim this up just a little bit, not too much, probably to there. Put on your handles and we're done. That is it. What do you guys think? I'm happy with how straight my zipper went on. This makes me very pleased. It's nice on both sides. Yes, so I'll leave that to you to finish up the last part, putting on your zipper end or your fabric zipper end, whatever it is that you decided to do. Coco is saying hi to you all. She misses you. She can't wait to see you all in August next month. Put on your handles, and that's it. That's all. I really do hope you guys enjoyed this class, and I will see you in August. Bye, everyone.